So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Tom O'Saban coming to you from the University of Illinois Tax School for the last time. So what a long, strange trip it's been. And I want to try to leave you today with some thoughts going forward about the difference you make in the world and the difference you can make to your clients. The first thing I want to do is kind of give you a little bit of background about life. And from that, I mean, given the fact that I'm now leaving the tax school and assuming a new role of Director of Tax Content for NATP, the National Association of Tax Professionals, some of you out there might be thinking, wow, why is it that a person would start and stop in parts of their lives? When really what I want to tell you is that I believe life is full of building blocks that get you to a certain point. We all have experiences to learn from, ideas that we take from one position to another, and hopefully it's all a realization of learning. And that's what we're all about. That's what we've been about here at U of I Tax School. That's what we're about when we talk with our clients, and that's teaching and learning, isn't it? So I go back and I want to reflect a little bit on my life. And first of all, I want to give thanks to my mom, who raised 4 boys on her own, and never once could we ever be considered victims. We were expected to do things and accomplish things and not be victims. That was really, really important. I'm very proud to be the youngest of 4 brothers, all of whom have experienced great success in life. And so thank you, Mom, for that. When I was in Catholic grade school in Belleville, Illinois, my 8th grade teacher, English teacher, Sister Melissa, taught me the public speaking skills that I carry with me to this day. She taught me how to make eye contact. She talked about not using the podium as a crutch. Again, a very early life skill. I was no more than, say, 13 years old. A very early life skill to take with me. I want to put a great shout out to Father Jack McEvely, now actually Monsignor Jack McEvely from Altoff Catholic High School in Belleville, Illinois. Again, one of the great inspirations in my life. Here we are in a small Catholic school. I played the trumpet in band, which I very much enjoyed. I also was in theater, which I think was also a very great learning experience towards a teaching career. But Father Jack never said once, well, we're a small school. We can't take on tough assignments like a concert band, doing something like the 1812 Overture, the William Tell Overture, all of those types of things, because we didn't have a full-blown orchestra. No. We never took a position that we're too small or we're not good enough. He challenged us and he made life fun. I looked at it in my adult life when I reached the point where I wanted to be a tax person. I had 3 really, really great instructors, and I'll give a shout out to them. Rose Sousa, my dear friend from Glen Carbon, Illinois. Kathy Westbrook from Troy, Illinois, who taught me how to never get really, really shook up. And Pat Palmieri, God rest her soul, from Fairview Heights, Illinois, who was a great business person. All of those 3 people were models in my life. And then when I looked and decided that I wanted to take those building blocks, those public speaking experiences that I had from Sister Melissa, or being in the band and theater at Altoff Catholic, and be able to parlay that into education, I want to thank the folks at NATP, Greta Zymetz, for example, who hired me back in 2003. And then we come to the University of Illinois Tax School. Very thanks out to Gary Hoff, who's now retired from U of I Tax School, and to Terry Coble, who's also retired, who saw perhaps some abilities and granted me opportunity. So we go through life, and in those building blocks, I left the University of Illinois when I was offered a training specialist position with NATP. I did that for a couple of years and really was burning out on the travel. But in those building blocks of life, I contacted Terry Coble in mid-2011 and said, hey, I think I would like to maybe come back to the University of Illinois. And she was very gracious to bring me back all the way forward to 2019, when, again, on all of these building blocks, my current position as Assistant Director of Professional Tax Education and Outreach was presented to me by Terry and the group at the University of Illinois Tax School. By the way, when I left my position with NATP back in 2011, never burned a bridge, but rather building blocks to the future, and still kept some connections in teaching with local chapters, etc. So now we come full circle to 2022, and I find myself with an opportunity presented by the National Association of Tax Professionals to go ahead and take all of those building blocks, going back to Sister Melissa and Father Jack, and building on these blocks of experience to become the Director of Tax Content and Government Relations. So I'm humbled and I'm appreciative, but I'm also looking at, again, those building blocks of what has happened over now a career that spans more than 30 years and a life, which I'm now nearly 62. So let's talk about tax professionals and how tax professionals make a difference. You know, I've been doing taxes since 1991. And in that time, what I have found is the best compliment that I could hear from a client is that I understand things better than when I walked in the door. They didn't say I was the least expensive person around, the most knowledgeable person around, but no, when they left my office, they felt as though they understood things a little bit better. Now, case in point about the difference we can make in people's lives. 2 new clients, really people I had known in the past, but didn't come to me for their 2021 tax return, I just met with a couple of Saturdays ago. Someone else had done their return in one case. In the other case, they had attempted their own. So in the one example, the client was crying because they'd received a letter from the IRS. The first thing I did, even before I took a look at what was happening, was I said, it will be okay. So I want to leave you with a goal of showing empathy to your clients, not sympathy, but empathy. So if you show empathy and caring to clients, they will beat a path to your door. So I sat there with the client, I looked at their information, and I said, okay, I see what's happening, but I also see what we might be able to do. But I already had in my mind, let's assume that I didn't have a resolution. In other words, they were going to owe tax to the IRS for whatever reason. Don't we have options that we can share with them that they may not know? So for example, like a delayed payment plan or an installment plan, or maybe even an offer in compromise. So the second client who came to see me had gone to another professional, and one thing I have never done in my career is I will not criticize another tax professional. But the long and short of it was I saw a mistake on the return. I asked questions about a capital gain that was reported, et cetera, and so forth. We reached the conclusion that the client would not have a taxable capital gain. So what did I do? I educated the client about that. But at the same time, I didn't lead him to a conclusion. I asked questions which brought me to what I was looking for, but I didn't coach the client on how I would respond. In both cases, those clients said, I can't imagine ever going to someone else when you do such a great job of educating me. I'm not saying these things, ladies and gentlemen, in order to be self-serving. I'm saying that's the difference that we can all make with our clients. Show empathy and caring, and moreover, and I'll quote my friend Larry Gray, a friend of the tax school, who said, know the law. So that being said, I kind of summarized my life in a very brief history, but I'll tell you, when I was very early in my career, and Rose Sousa, my dear friend and mentor, said, you need to go to farm school. And I said, farm school? What's farm school? Well, it was the University of Illinois Tax School at the time. And me being a person in the St. Louis metro area, I went to school in Collinsville. It's amazing to me today that I could go to a 2-day session by the University of Illinois, and I was ready to face my clients for the next tax season, aside from maybe looking at the newest edition of Pub 17 from the IRS, or perhaps having a quick finder to refer to. That 2 days of education presented by people like Chris Bird, Ted Knapp, Sue Voth, presented by those people got me ready to face clients for the next year. Ever since I started teaching in 2003, it seems like we have crisis after crisis that we've had to deal with. 2008, we had nearly a depression. And of course, we had the pandemic in 2020. So the way the laws have constantly been coming at such a fast and furious pace, I can't imagine that our 2-day tax school would be enough for you to face your clients and to give them the best advice you can with empathy and caring. So I started to come to this kind of a realization, and for those of you who've attended webinars that I did in the past, that the education that is offered here at the University of Illinois is really multifaceted. And I want you to have this as your number one takeaway beyond having empathy and caring for your clients. If you have what I'm about to share with you, then my time here has been well spent, and I can wish you well in the rest of your career. Realize, for example, that fall tax school that will continue is part of a multi-legged process of education that is ongoing, and I'm sorry to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's never ending. If people think that all they have to do is get a new software program, the software is going to do the work, well, people don't need you, they just need software. So think about as we go through the entire year. And I'll start the year by being after tax season. So here we are in May. Well, what's upcoming? I'm going to take a look at my sheet here. And for example, the university has a 1041 Basics webinar coming up on May the 24th. When we look at 1041, we're talking about trust and estate, one of the biggest growth areas we could see in the future. Also, what the University Tax School is doing, a great job of bringing outside instructors in, outside knowledgeable people from across the country. It's always good to get different perspectives, but I would encourage you to consider the 1041 Basics on May 24th webinar. Go to our website for more information. On June 14th, there's going to be a charitable trust and gift annuity webinar that's really sponsored by the University of Illinois Foundation. Again, another source of information in this multi-legged stool of education that you should be pursuing throughout the course of the year. So, okay, we go deeper into the summer. We've got self-study programs that you can do at your leisure. When it comes along to about September, we typically have an in-depth farm presentation. That, I believe, is tentatively scheduled for around the end of September. I want you to consider that as well if you deal with anything in farming. And for that matter, a lot of times in the farming session, there will be some interesting tidbits that you could take away for any small business owner. So keep that in mind as well. Then you have fall tax school. You get your 2 days of credit. But remember that it was really a good experience for me to be on the inside in the mothership, as we've described it, because I could see how the deadlines impact what has to happen. I mean, we have to have that book go to press by mid-September. Is there a possibility that laws could change between mid-September and when you face your first client? The answer is, it's more than likely yes. You know, going back to the days when I went to 2-day fall tax school, I tried to go as late as I could, but typically, because typically the IRS didn't do anything after the end of the year, which impacted laws. Well, we know that's not the case anymore. So be a part of fall tax school. Then, if there was some topic within fall tax school that you felt like you wanted to have a little bit more time spent on, fall tax school is done on a webinar basis after fall tax school is finished. Again, a chance for repetition, a chance for maybe for you to have it soak in a little bit deeper. Well, then we come into January. We're not yet into filing season. We have at the end of January, getting ready for filing season, the most up-to-date information that we have available shared with you as you get ready to face your clients. Here being the University of Illinois, the big I right here, we are part of the state of Illinois, so we typically do an Illinois state-specific webinar. But we don't go blind, we don't go dark during the filing season. That's where, if you're not a member, you should belong to our Facebook group. I want to really put a shout out to those members who take their time and talent and share it with others on the tax school group. It doesn't cost anything, but you yourself, you might consider yourself to be an expert in certain areas, or you have at least experience, and people have had the ability to share their questions or share their information in a supportive atmosphere. I've never seen anyone criticize another, and I don't expect that they will. But you can get information, get your questions answered on a real-time basis as things change during the tax season, so the Facebook page is important too. Beginning way back in June of 2019, after I came to the mothership, we started doing weekly blogs. And I based them really on what my experience had been within the tax office I still work in for Sue Volf at V&R Accounting, who owns my practice now. Okay, That being said, those weekly blogs, what came up that's timely to share with you? I think timely is really, really important. So you look at all of these factors. Let's see if I've missed anything here. I mentioned about self-study, where you can study on your own. We continually look at these programs to make sure they've got updated. So what I want you to have as a takeaway, as I say adios and move along my building blocks to another part of life's experiences, I say to you, have empathy, caring, but again, know the law. Don't consider your education to occur within a vacuum. Get as much education as you can and continue to grow in your knowledge and your caring for your clients. And you know what? The old saying was, if you can build a better mousetrap, people will beat a path to your door. And yes, you will be that better mousetrap, and people will beat a path to your door. You know why? Because you care. So for all of the blogs I had done for the many, many months, I would typically quote Jack Buck, the great announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals, who used to always say when he was on the radio, we'll say goodbye for just a while. But you know, I don't think that's really the appropriate thing for me to say. So I'll do the same thing when I thanked all of you for your wonderful comments on Facebook. And it was really, really humbling. And I found the Jewish term shalom. I'm not a Jewish person, but hopefully I've looked up the meaning of the word, and it said, we'll say goodbye or farewell until we meet again. So shalom to all of you here, and I wish you health and happiness in the future. And so for all of us here at the University of Illinois Tax School, this is Tom O'Savin saying shalom.